Hi, welcome to British Girl Bakes. I'm going to show you how to assemble a pinata-style sprinkle explosion cake, frost it with perfect buttercream polka dots, and top it with these glitzy sprinkled chocolates. To create the sprinkle explosion is really simple. Take your cake layers, already levelled and divided, and cut a hole out of the middle of all of them except one, using a round cookie cutter, or you can use a glass or any other clean round object. The hole needs to be at least 3 inches wide for the best results. Ideally, the layers shouldn't be any thicker than the height of your cutter to make it easier to cut through them. If you want to learn more about baking, levelling and dividing, assembling, frosting, storing, transporting and serving your cakes, check out my online course on the basics of cake. And I've put the link for more information in the top of the screen and in the description below this video. Save the cutouts from the middle of the cake layers and use them to make a mini cake, and the link for my tutorial on those is in the top of the screen and in the video description. Now it's time to assemble the cake. Pipe or spread some buttercream or your filling in a ring on your cake board to secure the first layer of cake. We're going to use all of the layers with holes in the middle first. Add your filling, and I'm using dulce de leche for this cake, and then another layer of cake, filling cake, filling cake. If you're enjoying this tutorial, please click the thumbs up button. Keep layering until you use your last cake with a hole in the middle, but don't add filling on top of this one yet. Now we're going to fill the chamber in the centre of the cake with sprinkles. I'm using 3 different sprinkle mixes for this 6-inch cake because I need about 8 ounces of sprinkles. Pour them into the chamber right up to the top, add your final filling to the top layer of cake, and then place your final layer, without a hole cut out of it, on top. Now the sprinkles are locked inside the cake, ready to explode out when you cut into it. Cover the cake with a crumb coat of frosting as normal, and this is my 4-minute buttercream, and I've put the link for that tutorial and recipe in the top of the screen and in the description below. Apply a final coat of buttercream, and this needs to set in the fridge for at least an hour before you continue with the polka dot decorations. Meanwhile, we're going to make the sprinkled chocolates to put on top. You'll need melted chocolate for this, and I'm going to be using both semi-sweet and white chocolate, and nonpareil sprinkles or hundreds and thousands. I'm using chocolate malt balls, like Maltesers or Whoppers, or you can use homemade or bought chocolate truffles. Drop a ball into the melted chocolate and coat it in the chocolate all over, and then you'll need a paper towel. Lift the chocolate out and roll it around on the paper towel to take off the excess melted chocolate, leaving a very thin coating. You can try this with a spoon, but it's much easier to use your hands, although this is also much messier. Then drop the ball into a bowl of sprinkles and shake it around to completely cover it in the sprinkles. Lift it out gently so that you don't rub the sprinkles off, and continue with the rest of your chocolates. A few tips for this. Melt your chocolate at 50% or 60% power in the microwave so that it doesn't burn or seize, and let it cool for maybe 5 minutes before you start. Otherwise it will melt the chocolate coating of your balls, and this process will be even messier. Also, when you choose which chocolate you melt, think about the colour of the sprinkles you're going to use. For these black and silver sprinkles, I'm using semi-sweet chocolate because it's dark and close to the colour of my sprinkles. But I'm using white chocolate for the chocolates I'm going to cover with gold sprinkles. To get the most perfectly round balls, the paper towel step is really essential. Here I'm going to skip it and show you what happens. I'm moving this ball straight from the melted chocolate into the sprinkles. You need to cover the ball with enough melted chocolate for it to be sticky, but with a coating so thin that it doesn't drip when you lift it. Otherwise the melted chocolate will make a sprinkle-covered puddle at the base, just like this. Put these in the fridge so they set and become less fragile, because at the moment if you touch them you might knock off the sprinkles. If you want to, you could brush these with edible glitter or luster dust after chilling them. For the polka dots on the cake I'm going to use a stencil, but you don't have to buy one. You can make your own with parchment paper, and I've got a tutorial on that, and I've put the link in the top of the screen and in the description below this video. This is an acrylic stencil from Evil Cake Genius, and I've trimmed off the bottom inch or so it goes right down to the bottom of the cake. And since it doesn't go all the way around the cake, I'm using parchment paper to continue wrapping it, taping the parchment to the stencil and making sure it's as tight as possible. This is my black cocoa buttercream that doesn't stain your teeth, and I've put that tutorial and recipe link in the top of the screen and in the video description as well. And I'm spreading the buttercream all over the stencil and then scraping off any excess with my offset spatula and a frosting smoother. Since I cut the stencil, it's not completely flush with the cake board, but I'll tidy that up in a minute. I'm peeling off the tape and parchment paper and stencil and leaving these neat polka dots behind. For the bottom of the cake, where the stencil wasn't pressed all the way down against the cake board, I'm using a sharp knife to scrape off any black smudges, and this is possible because the frosting is chilled, so it's firm and holds its shape, and doesn't get textured by the knife, so the white buttercream underneath stays smooth when I scrape off the black. My frosting is starting to soften because the room is quite warm, so I'm putting my cake back in the fridge, washing and drying the stencil, and then pressing it against the part that was covered up with parchment paper, so that the whole cake is covered with polka dots now. With the leftover black buttercream, I'm swirling some nests for my sprinkle balls, using a 1mm tip, and doing 9 of these because I made 9 sprinkle balls. To space them, I'm imagining a triangle on the cake, to pipe the first 3 swirls evenly around the cake, and then adding 2 swirls in between each of those. My sprinkle balls have set in the fridge so I can lift them up without damaging them and place them in alternating colours on the buttercream nests around the top of the cake. Now for the fun part, cutting into the cake. The bigger the slice, the more dramatic the effect, but since the chamber in the middle is quite big, any size slice will create an opening for the sprinkles to cascade out. And there they go! Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel to see a new cake decorating tutorial every week.